Idea so over Shavuos from Dali Shore, talking about the difference between the first set of tablets, the second set of tablets, and then when the Jews got the first set before the Chet Egel, the tablet itself was Mechtav Elokim, and the tablets itself came from Elokim. That the words, like the neshama, and the tablets themselves are like the guf. And then when the neshama and the guf were at one with each other, and just like the rotzon of the neshama is to do God's will, so to the rotzon the guf was to do God's will. The Jews became like malachim then. And then after the Chet Egel, so therefore the guf didn't have the same rotzon. It wasn't able, that the neshama wasn't able to shine through the guf like was before. So therefore, since the tablets were reflecting Klal Yisrael, Moses broke them, but it says that the letters flew away. So then for the second set, Hashem said to Moshe, "Pasol lecha, you have to make your own tablets." And then he said it was mamash the same letters that flew away from the first set got written on the second set. So that the only difference is that the neshama was the same between the first set and the second set, but the guf had changed from the first set, which is where it was on a pure level, which allowed the neshama to shine through it, and therefore the neshama and the guf were at one, and one with Hashem, to do Ratzon Hashem. And there was no chatzitza, there was no miyakev, but in the second set, the guf all of a sudden had its own Ratzon, and then you have a fight between the guf and the neshama. Now, I said that it says in that Shomer v'Zocher Nimar v'Dibur Echod, that when God gave the first and second tablets, when he said Zocher es Shabbos or Shemor es Shabbos, they said Zocher and Shomer at the same time. So he asks Pella, why is it that in the first set it says Zocher and the second set it says Shomer? They were both said at the same time. It's not so muvan why the Torah says Zocher the first time in Shemos, and in Devarim it says Shomer. They've said at the same time, so we'll say both. Say why is it split? So he says that it's the Madrega. It's really an example of the entire set of the first set and the entire set of the second set. That the Jews before the Chet Egel were in the Madrega of Zochor, and after the set, all the first tablets were in the set of Zochor, not just Shabbos. Shabbos is a dogma, just an example of this chiluk. By the second set, however, they were in the Madrega of Shomer. So the difference being is that once the guf doesn't want to go against the Ratzon Hashem, so therefore there's no mi'akev of the Davar Hashem. So therefore, once the Ratzon is Megala, it's clear Hashem doesn't want you to steal. So therefore, there's no taiva to steal. Your neshama doesn't want to steal, and your guf doesn't want to steal. So therefore, there's no shemira. There's no actual needing to be careful of stealing, because you won't steal, because your Ratzon now is not to steal, because Hashem has Megala his Ratzon not to steal, and then since there's that your neshama is a part of God and wants the same thing as him, and that your guf is also on the same level, and there's no barrier between your neshama and your guf, so therefore there's no shemira, there's no actual desire to do anything that's not Ratzon Hashem. So since there is nothing that could make you steal, because it's the giloy of Hashem's Ratzon of not to steal. So therefore, there is no shmir. You don't need to be shomer. You need to watch over, do anything to prevent you from doing it, because nothing will make you do it. So since you're not on the level of Shomer, you're on the level of Zochor, to know what the Ratzon Hashem is. So you need to remember the Ratzon Hashem, or to have awareness of that Ratzon. And that's it. Once you have that level of of awareness, so therefore it's not shaykh. The sin is not shaykh for you. So the second set is that now you have the Ratzon Hashem. Well, you know what, I want to steal. You know what, I want to play with my phone on Shabbos, or I want to drive on Shabbos, or go to the game, whatever it is. So you have your guf, and now has a Ratzon. Now that you're in that, equation. So now maybe you will sin, maybe you will go again. So therefore you have to be in the level of Shomor. You have to do things to enable to stop you doing it. So then he gives an example of the Ramoshal of really like the everything's in the first set, because it's like you have people inside and outside. The people inside are dealing with the shoyresh, are dealing with the root. We're dealing with the root. By looking at the root, you can tell, you can know everything about the branches coming from that tree. If you're on the outside, all you see are the branches. And if you look at the branches, you don't necessarily able to understand what the root is. And you can't really understand what's going on from the outside. So what the Torah Sheba'al Peh is that you didn't really need it with the first set of the tablets, because you're on the inside, therefore you just get everything, you see everything. What the example is, the Bavli is the Choshech, and the Yerushalmi is the Or. So when the light's on, you just see everything, and you don't need to work very hard on it. If the light's on, you know exactly where everything is in the room. If the light's off, so all of a sudden now you have a lot of work to do. How are you going to work out what this room is like if you don't put the required effort in? So therefore you're not going to know anything, you're just going to stay in the darkness. So that the second set, the Torah Sheba'al Peh, allows you to go from the darkness into the light, or it allows you to go from the outside into the inside. That from the outside, from the branch, you can see the branch. Using the Torah Sheba'al Peh, you can go into the inside and work out what the shoyrish is, and understand the root, and understand what it's really like. But what this branch is just a example. It's just a ha'ara. It's just a ray of what's really going on. Using Torah Sheba'al Peh, you can get to the root and get inside. There's a chiluk between being outside and being inside. So this falls into what I think is the kind of point of Kiruv and the failure of Kiruv. That people are on the outside, that they come to Judaism, they have no interest, they want nothing, and the point of Kiruv is to bring them in, to get them in on the inside. So again, it's we're changing the person from a Shomor to a Zochor. This is the point in the piece that he's saying, that through the Torah Sheba'al Peh you can change yourself from a Shomor into a Zochor, and therefore when you have a Megale of a revelation of the root, and you're understanding on the level of the root, so therefore you're able to purify that part and understand and be at one with God in that area in which you're on with the root. So therefore you have no desire to actually do the Aveira, and you don't need Shamor anymore, because you're on the level of Zachor, and that would be for every mitzvah. So for example, you have a guy, and he's doing Kiruv, and then so he starts off, he's eating treif all the time, and then his rabbi gets him off the treif. So for a period of time, he wants the treif, but it's also to him. So he's in the level of Shomor, that he wants to eat it, but he has a higher rotzen or a deeper rotzen not to actually eat it, but the chances of him eating it are still there. So he's on the outside, he's on the level of Shemira, but he can reach a level through connection to God and through God's Torah, that he can get to a level of Zachor, where he doesn't have the taivas for the treif anymore. That since his treif, he doesn't want it anymore. So he's gone from the outside to the inside. Or the guy can live his whole life and say that he really wants to eat the treif, and it's a difficult challenge for him the whole time, so he just stays outside the whole time. And again, the whole purpose of really the integration of Torah, and again here the idea of Kiruv, is to take a guy who's on the outside and bring him to the inside. So when he starts off and he's like, I can't do all these things on Shabbos, to a point of I can't do these things on Shabbos. And that's the difference going outside and inside. And really the failure of Kiruv is where you just get people and keep them on the outside. And that if you take it, and it's kind of set up that way, where you have to come and again, I'm constantly giving you stuff. I need to constantly make it in your best interest to do this thing. So I'll give you food, I'll give you drink, I'll give you money, I'll give you all these things in order to make you do mitzvahs. So when you keep on doing that, so therefore you keep the guy on the outside the whole time, and therefore as soon as all the rewards dry up, so therefore I have no interest in it anymore. And since you never actually did anything, that all you were doing on the level of Shomor, you just stayed on the level of Shomor. Nothing ever happened to bring you into the level of Zochor, where the Avera is not shaykh to you anymore. And it's just something I don't break Shabbos anymore. Shabbos for me is a day that whatever, but it's not that I choose not to turn my phone on. It's that I can't turn my phone on. And then that never happens in the Kiruv process, or they don't try to make it happen, and it just happens by the by. So then when things dry up and when things close down and when there is no whatever it is that the accoutrements that come with Judaism, like going to people's houses for Shabbos and having nice meals and I don't know, enjoying having people look at you in a synagogue and feeling part of something bigger and feeling accepted and feeling that you have a place in the world because all these other people around you are also putting black boxes on their head. So it's constantly a state of being outside, and as soon as that stops and the shul's shut down, so therefore why are you going to put them on? Because the entire level was always the level of Shomor. It was never a level of Zochor. You never tried to get in there. The whole purpose was just to use Judaism to further my own personal desires and my own personal defects. And this will just fill a hole for me. So therefore, as soon as it goes, I've stayed on the outside. And therefore, now I'm still on the outside. And nothing changed. And the whole Kiruv thing was just something in order that I could feel better about myself while I'm on the outside. But the real healing comes from getting in on the inside, moving from the outside into the inside. But since that was never a focus of anything, no one told me to do it, so I just stayed outside the whole time. And therefore, as soon as there's any hiccups or there's any issues, you just lose everything.